Shalom, family, and welcome back to the Submitting channel. On this channel, I care about a number of things. One of them in particular is telling the truth, right? Um, and quite frankly, I'm just going to be honest with you. I have a hard time believing what anybody says. Not just these individuals in this video, but anybody. Why? Well, the scripture says that men lie. And so if men lie and God is the truth and all men are capable of lying, why do people assume that these young men are telling the truth at face value? Why do they presuppose that what they're telling us is the God honest truth, especially when the scriptures say that men tell lies? So if men tell lies and you're going to believe them at face value, something is wrong with you. I'm just going to be honest with you. Something is definitely wrong with you if you automatically believe that every time a man opens their mouth, his mouth, that it's the unquestionable truth. These people, not just them, but I found that to be true in many European circles. When you're dealing with European Americans, it is what they say, you don't question it. It's the standard, and it's like that no matter where you go. People just assume that their way is the way, right? As if they're God, okay? Because people are treating their testimony as if they're God when the Bible says that let God be true and every man a liar. So do you think that they're God? Do you treat their testimony as if it is the oracles of God? Because many Americans, many European Americans, especially, and maybe some of Black Americans, especially like Brandon Tatum, believes that their testimony is infallible. They believe that these fallible individuals are saying infallible things. Okay. But again, I digress. Okay. Because I do want to welcome you to this channel. Um, in this channel, I pretty much usually speak about scriptures and about many other things. I examine arguments and apply biblical commandments to prove all things and to hold fast to that which is good. But that same standard applies outside of scripture as well. I use it in my daily life as a university professor. I use it in my life with my wife, my children, with my friends, family members. I essentially want to impart that to this community. So if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And I don't say that as a content creator. I say that as somebody who is looking forward to people um, essentially developing these same skills so that you can avoid deception in your own life, private life, personal life, every other life. And you can share this with your children as well, especially if you are a Black person, especially if you are a Hebrew, okay? Because our people need to apply these types of skills in their life and impart them to their children moving forward. Because conclusions essentially have to follow from premises. And so when a young man dies, that young man being Nolan Wells, and the public is repeatedly told nothing nefarious happened, no foul play. That was the initial statement put out to the public, which is why everybody's like, "Oh, Black people can't swim. Black people have never been able to swim." Just fallacy upon fallacy upon fallacy. Again, as I said in the part 1 video, I am a self-taught swimmer. Okay. But the public is repeatedly told, stop asking questions, is essentially what it is. Everything has already been debunked, right? According to them, they've debunked the CETO data, even though it came from an audio software engineer. just throw that out the window, right? I'm going to examine whether what they're saying is actually true. That's the whole point of me dissecting this interview, because again, not just this interview, but all the other interviews that have come across Brandon Tatum's lap, because there is contradictions throughout Trayson's interview, Warren's interview, the CETO call, all the information surrounding this. You should be skeptical of their testimonies. And if you're not, something is wrong with you, as I said, because you Basically, you're saying that these guys are infallible, what their testimony is infallible, and it's the God honest truth. You should keep an open mind. That is the only that is the only conclusion you should have. But this is part 2 of Brandon Tatum's interview concerning Nolan Wells. According to them, they care about what happened to Nolan Wells, but I have yet to be proved, or yet to be to draw the conclusion that they have the same concern as most of the general public. I just don't, as some of the general public. I just don't see it. Many of the general public, essentially. Once again, my position is not that these individuals or anyone else murdered Nolan Wells. That's not the proposition that I'm defending. Is their position questionable? Absolutely. If I was a district attorney, these guys would not be ruled out as suspects, period. I don't care if you've given a testimony, but your testimony is evidence now. That's all it is. So are you still on the hot seat? Absolutely. Everybody's on the hot seat. But the proposition I'm examining is much simpler. Does the evidence being presented actually justify the absolute conclusions that this defamation attorney has made, even though he's not licensed in the state of Mississippi? He's only licensed in the state of, in New York, I believe, somewhere. If I'm not mistaken, I believe New York. Yeah. I don't believe he's licensed in the state of Mississippi. I could be wrong, but you can fact check me on that. Let me know in the comment section, but I think he's not licensed at all in Mississippi. But I want to see if their premises line up with their conclusions, because Nolan Wells is still the victim here. These guys are not victims. They may be victims to a smaller extent, in the sense that someone is attacking them and saying mean things to them. But think about how small that is compared to this, where Nolan is dead. You understand? We need to find out why, how, what happened. We still don't have the evidence of that. We only have some ambiguous timelines and just many questions upon questions. 27 people that have not come publicly, to the public and given testimonies about what happened. Why is no one saying anything? And we only have these guys put on a podcast of a popular YouTuber who hates black people. And he can say what he want to say, but he actually does hate black people. If you don't hate black people, why are you just pumping content out there that is painting this negative image of black people when you're only highlighting maybe 20% of the community? So it's very questionable. But again, let's begin, because it's going to open with a preview, but I want to get started because I don't want this thing to drag on too long. So let's get started.
Why would we call CETO if we have a dead body on the boat? I mean, why would we call the Coast Guard? Why would we do the things we did if we know we killed somebody?
You don't hear about the pool party because it was on June 27th. You don't hear about anything else that was mentioned. Thousands of lies. And now, the audio comes back, and all of a sudden we can hear Nolan yelling in the background, screaming, we're screaming about how he's dead. That's just a complete lie.
If you just murdered your best friend on an island, the dumbest thing you could do would be to call the Coast Guard.
Okay, mind you, remember when in the CETO call, Warren was asked, do you want us to get the Coast Guard? He said, no, we don't need that. So the attorney making that statement, come on, let's go. I can harp on that.
What is your thoughts on that phone call to CETO? Some people have gone out and done enhancements to the audio, and in doing that, created a transcript manually. It doesn't appear that the transcript was derived from an automated system or have any, in my opinion, real integrity with it. What are your thoughts, first, you guys, on the audio, and then I'll get to you, Ed, on could that be a defamatory area the way it was produced? So what do you guys think about that audio?
Well, I can go ahead and say that as you posted that clip of all of us on the boat, as it's not rolling, but right there sitting in the water, Wyatt's on the phone with CETO in that clip. He's on the phone. Wouldn't you think that you would have seen Nolan on the bottom on the floor or something? Or
was that Nolan on that Let me go back 10 seconds real quick. I mean, excuse me, was that Warren? Is that Warren? That doesn't look like Warren to me. Does that look like this guy?
As you posted that clip of all of us on the boat, you know, as it's rolling, not rolling, but right there sitting in the water, Wyatt's on the phone with Cito.
Oh, he says Wyatt was on the phone with Cito. Okay. I thought Warren was on the phone with Cito. Okay, I thought Warren was the one who called Cito, not Wyatt. Okay. Maybe I'm having a cognitive dissonance moment, but I'm pretty sure Warren was the one that called Cito, not Wyatt. But you can fact check me. I'm not sure. Again, I just started work, so I've kind of put this out of my mind for like a week or two. I have to go back and look at my files, but I'm about 50%, maybe 60% sure that Warren was the one that called Cito and not Wyatt. But he's saying that Wyatt was on the phone with Cito. Now, keep in mind, Brandon Tatum did post these on his X page, but they do not prove anything. What do they not prove? Excuse me. They prove that you know, they were out. It looks like there's boats in the background. They're near Horn Island, but in the Cito call, it seemed like people were, you know, sort of, you know, in disarray in the background. This is just, there was no audio on this video that Brandon Tatum posted. Mind you, there was no audio. There was no timestamp published to it. There was nothing but this video. And then what we don't have from this, we don't have the names of every person on this boat. We don't have the names of the people who are taking the video of them on this boat. And this clip, I believe, was like maybe less than 10 seconds, maybe 7 seconds. It doesn't tell us who was filming. It doesn't tell us why they were filming. Essentially, him publishing this video on the credibility and on the backs of these individuals is basically, again, assuming that they're infallible, that they're in testimony, and what they're saying should be, you know, it should be the oracle of God, essentially. But again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could be wrong. I thought Warren called, not Wyatt. And then again, as I mentioned about this video, where is the criteria for the video? We don't have that. Brandon Tatum didn't even mention this when he first posted this. Again, I think like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So this video doesn't prove what they think it proves. Okay, so keep that in mind. This video does not prove what they think it proves.
In that clip, I mean, he's on the phone. Wouldn't you think that you would have seen Nolan on the bottom of on the floor or something, or scrambling around, or everybody in a pot, like in a small space on the boat looking at him or something? I mean, it's just so crazy to think that, why would we call Cito if we have a dead body on the boat? I mean, why would we call the Coast Guard? You know, why would we do the things we did if we know we killed somebody? And then another following up on that is, why aren't we in jail yet? I mean, we're not geniuses. There's no way we could have done a murder. I mean, there's no way we could have covered it up, especially out there with that many people. Go ahead.
I mean, listen. What portion of the boat was outside of the realm and aspect of this video? It was the other boat. And these questions that he's asking, why aren't we in jail? That's not an argument for factual innocence. Not being arrested does establish one thing. It establishes that you are not in jail. That's all it establishes. It doesn't establish that you should not be in jail. It just establishes that you aren't in jail yet, or that you should be in jail. There are other possibilities. What he just mentioned it's called a limited choice fallacy, right? It's when he frames a question in such a way, well, why aren't we in jail? He's only framing it to make you believe that there is two options to that. Why aren't we in jail? Either we are free right now, therefore we didn't do anything wrong, or we are locked up, and if we were already locked up, then that means we did something wrong. But there are more possibilities than that one that he's mentioning right now, which is just because you're not in jail doesn't mean you shouldn't be in jail, and just because you haven't been prosecuted doesn't mean you should be prosecuted. So there's more, and I can come up with more options to his line of questioning, but always be wary of when you make a statement and then someone comes back and say, well, why aren't we in jail now? Like if I said, you should be in jail. Well, why aren't we in jail right now? Or do you think you should be in jail? Well, why aren't we in jail? And then they're putting it back in your hands to draw conclusions so that they can be ready to defend their argument again. Right. But you got to be careful with people who do things like that, because these people like that just refuse to take accountability for wrongdoing or anything. Those people will not say I'm sorry, will not apologize for anything. And I mean, I've been in relationships with people who with women who are like that, and I've known men who can be like that as well. But let's continue.
I think, especially about the CETO call, I think people, regardless of who it is going to believe what they want to hear. I think half these people, or not half these people, but some of these people you can't convince. Regardless, they're going to believe what they want to believe. If they want to believe that my friends and I had something to do with Nolan dying, then they're going to believe that regardless of what you put out. But you put out, Brandon, that a clip of the boat when Wyatt was on the phone with CETO, and it is bold.
Real quick, I just thought about something. So before he goes into that, right, I just thought about something. There were several arguments that were bundled together a minute ago, right? I recall him saying, look how calm we are. You know what I mean? Like, look how calm we are. Who says stuff like that? I mean, as if being calm recuses us of crime. Think about how many people who have broke the law, right? And I mean, I was just watching a YouTube video the other day of like street racers, and they were breaking the law and, running from cops or whatever, at high speeds, whatever the case may be. And I mean, do you think, and all of them they got away or whatever. But my question is, in a situation like that, or in a situation where you've done a crime and you got like, your mom is a judge, you got people around you in high profile, powerful positions that can protect you and say, look, don't worry about anything. We got everything covered. Look, don't worry about it. We're going to get the a high profile attorney who supported, or excuse me, who was the counsel of Donald Trump, the president of the United States, of all people. We're going to get him. Imagine that. Like, if and imagine, you're in a country where essentially being white American is sort of being born as a token individual, where, you're pretty much put on a pedestal because you're told in public school that your family and everybody around you, European Americans who became white in the 18th century, that they created everything, that they, made the natives civilized, made the Negroes civilized, made the whole world civilized, and God told them to do it through manifest destiny. Imagine having that belief, that irrational belief, that confidence, that, presupposition in your own mind. Imagine having that and going into a situation like this where it may have been an accidental crime, or otherwise, maybe they are innocent, right? Because I want to keep both options opened for those of you who believe that going biased in either direction. Nevertheless, all things considered, they could have murdered Nolan Wells, or they could not have murdered Nolan Wells. Both options are still true so far. We don't know yet, and we should keep our options open given what we hear from them. Just because you're calm doesn't mean anything. Demeanor is not forensic evidence. I wouldn't I wouldn't convict somebody because they look nervous, right? Oh man, gosh, this guy's nervous, therefore he did the crime. That doesn't make any sense. And I wouldn't clear somebody because they look calm. People respond to stress differently, right? When I was getting my teacher license, when I was studying for my teaching licensure exam, can't talk right now. I remember I was having test anxiety. Why? Because I didn't have any money. I was poor. My family didn't have any money. I was literally, first generation college, or first generation university, and I mean, I just had serious test anxiety, but I could do math, and I wasn't responding to stress well, right? But I knew somebody who was. Why? Because they had everything that was like their needs were met, but my basic needs weren't met. So I was responding to stress in a different way. But these guys, their basic needs are met. Think about it. Not only are their basic needs met because they're rich and European American, but all their other basic needs are met. Because they have litigators. They have powerful people in positions of authority who can make this all go away. Okay. Calm demeanor does not establish what happened earlier that day. It doesn't establish what happened to Nolan Wells. Secondly, again, they keep pointing to this video and they say that, even Warren was like, oh yeah, the video that you posted, pointing it back to Brandon, they keep pointing to this video and say that you can almost see all the way down to the deck. Okay. Then show precisely what the video establishes, but saying that, oh, look, he was on the phone with Cito. How can you prove that? Show us the timestamp on this, because no timestamp has been presented yet. And it'd be interesting if Brandon asks for it, which I doubt he will. What areas of the vessel are visible? What time was it recorded? Who was aboard the vessel? Like, name all people. What portions of the boat was outside the camera's view? Who was on the other boat? Don't give me that I can almost see everything, therefore everything is proven. Show exactly what the video establishes. And then we get, why aren't we in jail? That's not an argument. Not being arrested established one thing. As I said earlier, you have not been arrested. That's a procedural fact. But it does not logically entail that therefore no wrongdoing occurred. Again, those are just two different prepositions, man. And I'm just not satisfied.
That Nolan was not on the boat with us. You can literally almost see down to the deck. And as you can see in that picture, everybody is completely casual while Wyatt's on the phone with Cito. Yeah, we were scrambling around trying to get the boat fixed, but the guys were, in the video, you can see me, I'm sitting on the bow.
Real quick, he said the guys were. Now, mind you, there's women in the audio of the Cito call. That's clear. That's clear as day. Where are the women on this boat? There are no women on this boat, which lends to the discredit of this video footage in my mind, because again, you can clearly hear women on the call with Cito, but there are no women on this boat when they call Cito, at least from what I can tell. Okay, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any women on this boat. All right, I don't see any women. But let's continue.
If there was someone dying on the boat, why would everybody just be sitting there waiting to either get towed in, or in the first place, like Jack said, why would Wyatt call Cito? It's crazy. The reason we turned down Coast Guard is, why would we call Coast Guard if Cito could pull us in? But we fixed the boat and we ran into Fort Bayou, and that's it. The Cito call was completely enhanced.
I do want to say something. I want to clarify, because obviously language matters, right? Cito and the United States Coast Guard are not the same thing. Throughout these interviews, the two, Cito, SEA, and the Coast Guard, those two things throughout these interviews, the two get rhetorically blended together, because when you hear Coast Guard, you think United States military, you think, upstanding, you think they care about justice even more so than local police. You think that they're going to be upstanding even when no one's paying attention. Cito, I mean, these are local guys. I mean, we know somebody at Cito. I mean, the guy on the Cito call knew their family, right? But the two keep getting blended rhetorically together. One moment it's, why would we call Cito? Then it becomes, why would we call the Coast Guard? Those two things are mutually exclusive. But right here, we're also told that the Coast Guard assistance was declined because Cito could provide the tow. That's fine. Then separate the events. Don't blend them together. Who called Cito at what time? What was said? Who contacted the Coast Guard at what time? What was reported? Who declined assistance at what time? For what reason? Those facts may all ultimately support their account. But again, we have so much ambiguity within those variables, and even within the timestamp of those variables, and with the time of this particular video that they're allegedly saying was when they called Cito. But again, aside from that, you can't collapse those separate communications into, we call federal law enforcement, therefore we're innocent. You got to build a timeline, line upon line, precept upon precept.
And these people just want to believe what they want to hear. And that's exactly what they're doing. So it's just crazy to me that people have tried to twist this and twist the audio. When we came out with the first interview, it debunked half these lies, and now you don't hear about any of it. You don't hear about the pool party because it was on June 27th. You don't hear about anything else that was mentioned. Thousands of lies. And now, the audio comes back, and all of a sudden we can hear Nolan yelling in the background, screaming, we're screaming about how he's dead. That's just a complete lie. And it's another lie to push this narrative that people don't want to turn down. It's insane to me.
Sorry to interrupt.
Whoa. This guy's asking for likes, I'm sure. Now the standard has to work both ways, right? If somebody manipulated audio and falsely inserted meaning that isn't there, then you got to expose it. You can't just say, oh, they manipulated the audio. This is the person who, as a matter of fact, there have been several people who have done the, who have cleared the audio up. A Black American, a Hebrew woman, an Israelite woman cleared up the audio for everybody. She's an audio software engineer. It's her job. It's what she's been doing for many years. Not just her, but many other people have come out. I believe, I think her name is Nancy Grace. She's also had someone clear up the audio. I mean, like, trying to discredit someone who is a professional is par for the course, because why not just say, we heard something different, and then tell us what you heard. He doesn't even elaborate on what he heard. He's just saying that, oh, the audio footage is a lie. Well, tell us what you heard. Tell us what you heard in the background. Why is what we hear in the audio footage appears differently visually from the video that you're saying corresponds with the video call, corresponds with the audio call? And then what are you actually hearing when you listen to the footage from Cito? Tell us. But I don't think he does.
I know you're enjoying this incredible interview. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and also join our membership program. Let's get back to the interview. And if you guys could say one thing to naysayers out there, in your opinion, that are naysayers, I want to give you, a 30-second opportunity to say what you would want to say to people regarding what you're saying are lies that have been told about you. And I could start here and we'll go all the way down to, and we'll end with you, Ed. But Morgan, if you had an opportunity to have this projected to everybody in the United States of America, many people who have made statements about you and about what occurred that day, what would you say to them? Like just a 30-second, this is what you would want to convey.
First I would say that, it's proven in evidence that they're all lies. I think that most of these people are just going to, I say most of these people, a lot of these people that have posted stuff out there, they've just been
lies backed by no evidence. And if I had one thing to say to them, I'd say do your research before you go out saying something that's not true, that could hurt someone. Just do your research. I mean, it's easy. All you have to do is just scroll like they do all day long and find the evidence that's right in front of their face. And I mean, it'll prove its own facts.
I could say I would want to add on to that, do the proper research. Sort through all the lies. I mean, and a lot of these stuff, like you can just tell straight off the bat it's lies. And for one, it's defaming us. And for two, it makes you look like a dummy. I mean, like, you're just saying stuff, just pulling it out of who knows where, and you just look like an idiot on your phone making this TikTok or whatever. Like, do your research, man. Like, if you can't simply do that, don't get on your phone and start making a video.
It's just kind of concerned me with like how people have the time of day to just make up complete lies out of something that they have no evidence of and to post on social media to put other people down. It's insane to me, like how, like, just people push this and, you know, want to make this a story that it's absolutely not. I don't know what happened to Nolan. My friends don't know what happened to Nolan. But for people to come around and say, oh, this happened for a fact, and I know this, and there's no telling me otherwise.
Okay, I want you to remember this statement by Warren. I don't know what happened to Warren. My friends don't know what happened to Warren. Just keep that in the back of your mind, okay? Until we find out what's going on. Keep that in the back of your mind. I don't know what happened. My friends don't know what happened. That's an absolute statement, okay? Just keep that in your mind.
Then that's just stupid. You have no, like, half these people that are saying all these crazy things on the internet, those lies have already been debunked. There's evidence supporting this is a lie. Like, why are you still saying this? These people just have no idea what they're talking about. And it's very clear because a lot of these people just speak without thinking and post stuff without thinking. But at the end of the day, it just looks really stupid on.
Because, and I say that because he says, we don't know what happened. Our friends don't know what happened. But then he declares everything else as already debunked. Oh my gosh. I wonder if these young men went to private school. Because if they did, this is exposing how the private school, and arguably the public school essentially are, systems of profit. They're not really concerned about education. They're not really concerned about high quality education. Obviously, because the federal government, state, local governments do not put money into education whatsoever. If you look at where all the money, and I say whatsoever, but you may look at the fiscal budget for your state and see 200 million, right? And you say, well, wow, they're putting a bunch of money in education. Well, trust me, that is, what you're seeing is probably, $100,000 is going to people who work at the district office. And that's like maybe 30 people, $100,000 is going to them over a year's time, and it's spread out. I mean, anyway, I'm not going to get into all that because it just pisses me off that so much money is pumped into education and you don't see a real change in it because, I mean, American education is it could be better, right? If they want it to be better. But based on what I've seen and heard from these individuals, if they went to private school, it'd be very interesting. And again, just because you go to private school, just because you go to public school, it really don't matter. It's all about who you know at the end of the day. And I am convinced that is true.
Their page and whatever they're posting on, but it's just sad. Like, people really take the time out of their day to post a bunch of BS lies on a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds who have never done anything to hurt anyone and, loved their friend. Like, I loved that man more than anybody. And like, so did all of my friends. And it's absolutely horrible that these people want to come on and push this narrative that we had something to do with this or we killed our best friend. It's just sick to me, Brandon. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, this might be too long, but I have a few things I need to add. First of all, with respect to Warren, if you just murdered your best friend on an island, the dumbest thing you could do would be to call the Coast Guard, to call a federal law enforcement agency and tell them, hey, can you guys go out and check out this island and look for Nolan Wells? Well, that's exactly what Warren did. Warren called the Coast Guard. And that is one of many very compelling facts. He got back and he called the Coast Guard. Does that sound like a guilty man to you? All right, now these are all American young men, incredible young men.
I can't take this attorney seriously, man, just because, you know, I mean, for a number of reasons. I just don't understand why the appeal to authority is on his lips when he's an attorney. He doesn't, I mean, why is he building, why is he it's almost like he's going through the textbook and he's like, okay, well, I have to establish, you know, I have to establish and make these guys human. We already know that America makes them more human than anybody else, right? Literally, I mean, think about it. No brown, black, if you will, if we're doing colorism, no brown or black country in the world has nuclear weapons or is allowed to have nuclear weapons. Only European or only pale countries have nuclear weapons. Make that make sense. Only those countries have nuclear weapons. So this establishing character and making them and painting them as more human is normative for this community. Let's normalize and show you how human these individuals are juxtaposed to everybody else. These guys could not have obviously committed this crime because, well, they're the best that Mississippi has to offer. They're private school, they're white European, they're all American boys. They go fishing, they go hunting, they go out on their boats. They potentially use cocaine and drink alcohol unsolicited and sponsored by adults who we don't have the names for so that they can go up on federal charges. He's not saying any of that. Or the fact that you need a commercial license certificate in order to operate a boat vessel if you were born after 1980 in Mississippi. He doesn't bring up any of those things, but they have great character. Come on now.
And they did a lot more than just that. I won't go through all of it now, but they did a lot of heroic things after the fact, and they did the best they could. And they tried for their dear friend. All of their actions are the actions of innocent men, not guilty men. And again, they are categorically, completely, and totally innocent.
I just don't understand what's like. I don't get this guy's language. Like, I just don't get it. Why is he like? How is he so certain? And I looked up his profile. I mean, yeah, he's done some criminal cases, but he has done absolutely zero cases where individuals could have potentially committed some type of criminal murder, etc. He has not represented anyone, but he's so absolute and so matter of fact that I just don't understand. I mean, look, you're their counsel, you're representing them, that's fine. You're going to go to bat for your client, you're getting paid to do this. Like, whatever, that's your job, right? But I mean, personally, I could not represent anyone if there was any inclination that what they were saying was false. That's just me. And after listening to their testimony and taking into consideration all of the things that I've heard so far from them, I personally would not represent them in this criminal case. Him representing them as far as the defamation aspect of it, I mean, that's perfectly fine because that's very safe, right? That's very safe, and ironically, I'll say this before I continue playing. Nolan's mom was review bombed by no doubt European Americans, and her review went from favorable all the way down to, I think, like a 1 star or something like that. and not one arrest was made. But people are attacking her credibility, saying that she's out here, um, sifting for clout because she had a social media platform before her son went missing and was found to be unalived or found to be deceased, right? But they're attacking her credibility. I think they even put out an anonymous report on her licensure with the medical board, trying to attempt to discredit her and cause her to lose her job. I think they closed the case immediately, but the fact that it was open, I want to say maybe they're using AI technology, so maybe it was open because of AI, and then a human being got a hold of it and was like, oh wait, like this woman's record is spotless. But where are the arrests made on her behalf, or her family's behalf? Like, make that make sense. I hope you can see that. Like, because someone sent some ambiguous Facebook messages to them and said, oh, you're going to find something in your mailbox, and, making these anonymous threats because you said that, like, you can automatically get these people arrested. Wow. What power do they have? Because they're obviously very powerful. They have people with them who are very, very powerful, controlling the media, controlling the narrative, because it's more important that we paint these boys as victims than it is about finding out what the heck happened to Nolan Wells. That's what I'm getting.
All right, but that's not the end of it. I'll say this again. If you lied, you won't be able to hide. If you lied, you won't be able to hide. And you're going to be held accountable. And if you lied about these fine young men, these good Ocean Springs people, you're going to be held accountable. You're going to be sued. I tell you, there are going to be laws.
So here's the thing. If counsel can prove that in court, then pursue that case. That's what courts are for. But what evidentiary value does that have concerning Nolan Wells' death? Not a damn thing. Telling somebody that I'm going to sue you does not establish who last saw Nolan when Nolan was last seen, who was aboard which boat, what happened after the group departed, or how Nolan died. It's a completely separate legal controversy. Don't nobody give a damn about, they're getting threats and all this. Man, look, I've worked in middle school. Kids issue threats all the time. I'm going to beat you up, man. Don't talk about me. And if you talk about me, I'm going to get mad and this and that, man. Listen, whatever, right? Pursue that in court, but why are you making this the narrative? Why are you trying to attempt to make these guys out as victims? Like, let's focus on Nolan Wells. What about Nolan Wells? No one cares about how painful counsel says that litigation will be. Just, it's going to be painful for you. Nobody gives a damn. Those are threats. No one is afraid of that, right? What we should be asking is, what about Nolan? That's it. Don't nobody give a damn about what he's talking about.
Lawsuits, because we have already identified some of the worst offenders. And it may have felt good for them in the moment, instant gratification, sugar high. They got their sugar high. But long after that sugar high wears off, they're going to find themselves in court, and it's going to be excruciatingly painful. The only thing I can say about that is it won't be quite as painful as what they did to Morgan, Jax, and Warren.
So Ed, I got one question for you, because the way you guys articulate the defamation, obviously, if someone puts out online lies, knowingly and intentionally do them, knowing that they're lies, in part, that's a part of the defamation. But is the racial component, because when someone goes out and says things without evidence, projecting that this was a racial encounter, is that a part of this defamation, or does that not count as far as your tactics on defending?
Brandon, step into my office. Oh my God. So we can't ask questions. So here's my thing. When you say, when he says, projecting that this may have been racism, you know, listen, this man is so ignorant of American history that it's almost like he don't even know that he's black. Because, this belief that, oh, we're all Americans, that's not even an ethnicity. Being an American is not an ethnicity. Being white has only been an ethnicity since the 18th century. Before that, white people didn't even exist on paper as being white. Okay. Neither did, so-called being black. It's a qualitative description, even though you can look at them and clearly see that they are adjacent to white. They're not white at all. So what, like, obviously it had to come out of somewhere. When did they become white? Or, not to go too far into that, but again, you can't ask questions. That's essentially what he's saying. We can't speculate in the public square, which would be against constitutional rights, right? I mean, he claims to hold up the Constitution. It would be against constitutional rights to say that we can't say what we want to say. The KKK has been saying what they want to say for hundreds of years, but somehow you can't say what you want to say about these individuals and say that that they are guilty if that's if that's what you believe. Come on, man. What world are we living in? What world are we living in where you can't say what you want to say in the public square because someone is going to sue you, and they're obviously, they're going to get a high profile attorney and then hold you accountable, and it's going to hurt and be painful, according to this guy.
Them or defending their honor, I guess, in this situation.
Well, one thing that we're never going to do is we're never going to speculate, and we're never going to guess like some other folks who got their sugar highs and are sucking up all the oxygen in the room for now, and they'll have their day in court. But we can talk about what might motivate people, and I won't talk about any particular people because I am not inside their head right now, but I can tell you that racism for profit.
His body language is, I mean, has he had his arms crossed the entire time? I mean, he looks like Tristan.
Is a major factor here. And we don't have to name names, but racism for profit, generating outrage for profit.
Real quick, racism for profit. Have you been on X? The most racist accounts on X make gobs of money, disgusting amounts of money being racist, pumping out disparaging content about black people. Hating black people is a lucrative business. There was a woman who called an autistic Negro Hebrew kid on the playground a Nigger on camera, and now she's a millionaire. So these people, European Americans, are clout chasing racism. They have been doing it think about it. Slavery literally made America an empire, a financial power on earth among all other kingdoms on the earth. We did that. But it was through racism and through dehumanization, etc., that they became wealthy, that they became what it is today. So this idea that somehow people are using this case as, let's just grant them that and say that Ben Crump and other people are using this as a monetary thing. Well, they've learned from the best, right?
In the end, it's all about money. And we don't even have to think about whether the racism that these people are talking about is real or fake or anything like that. It's racism for profit. And it's part of the motive. But when you have offenders who defame innocent young men, fine innocent young men, upstanding young men, it might be a constellation of motives. Profit, animus, stupidity, ignorance. Maybe they just don't like evidence. See, we really like evidence here. Tyler Cox really likes evidence. I really like evidence. Morgan, Jax, Warren, we really like evidence. And that's the difference between the other guys and us. And we have evidence. We have the receipts, we have the goods, and we're going to be presenting it in court. And I will say,
Oh my gosh, man. I like how he said, we don't speculate. And then he acknowledges that I'm not inside their head. Good. Then he proceeds to tell us, what motivates them, right? Racism for profit, outrage for profit. It's all about money. Hold on. Because that's a claim about motive. I thought you just said you weren't in their head. How do you know what motivates someone? Even the Bible says that no one knows the thoughts of a man except that man. No one knows the thoughts of God except God, or the man or the woman to whom God chooses to reveal himself to. You don't know my thoughts until I open my mouth and say them. But he's saying that he doesn't want to speculate, but then he makes a claim about motive. Wow. This is why you got to listen carefully to people. But if assigning motive without sufficient evidence is wrong, then when his opponents do it, then the exact same evidentiary standard applies to him. He's being goofy. Again, this is crazy. You cannot say that we are never going to speculate about what people think and then immediately tell the audience why those people are doing what they're doing. If you have evidence of financial motive, show it. Put it up. If you're inferring motive from behavior, TikTok videos, people speculating, then call it an inference. That's it. Apply that standard symmetrically. But you got to show proof. You got to be able to prove that they're doing it for money. You got to be able to prove that. How can you prove that? This is ridiculous. Let's continue.
once we present it in court, we're going to say, now you can't leave.
Do you think that the other side, because I've seen through social media that there's a preparation of lawsuits against the boys. Is there merit, according to your knowledge in this space, is there merit to pursuing lawsuits against them?
I am so glad you asked that question, because I can answer that question definitively and unequivocally. Anybody who sues Jax, Warren, or Morgan, they're going to end up paying our attorney's fees. Guaranteed. Any lawsuit, and I'm going to warn anyone right now, anybody who is thinking for 1 second about suing these fine young men, these good Ocean Springs people, you're going to pay their attorney's fees. You're going to lose. You're going to get annihilated. You're going to get crushed. You have nothing. And here's the beauty of it. We know you have nothing because we actually have the evidence. We know what happened. And I'll just say it like this. We have a pair of aces and you have 2-7 offsuit.
So with all the negative that's going on.
Wow. Fear mongering. I mean, pair of aces versus 2-7 offsuit. I mean, stop it, man. Remember what Warren told us a few minutes ago. He said, I don't know what happened to Nolan. My friends don't know what happened to Nolan. Remember that? I told you to remember that. Now, counsel says, we know what happened. Oh my gosh. I mean, again, all you need is basic listening skills. I could be flipping burgers at McDonald's, which I used to do. And I would be able to see that this guy who is an attorney, he would give me the confidence that look, I can go back out there and be anything that I thought I couldn't be. So if you're watching this, you need to realize something. There is no limit to what you can be. If this guy's an attorney, you can be whatever you want to be in this life. You could be a 30, I might go out and try out for the Carolina Panthers. That's probably what I need to do. Because apparently anybody can be anything that they want to be if you just believe it. Because this guy you can look him up. Look at his credentials. He has a lot of credentials. I mean, the public, titles. This is what they love. A BA in this, passing the bar with flying colors, representative of Donald Trump. I mean, I just don't get it. Saying that we know what happened is crazy work. Those things, what he said and what Warren said, are materially, they're different claims. I mean, have they sat down together, or did they just jump on this interview with Tatum? And I would be curious, is Tatum catching the contradictions? I don't think he is. I think he's just like, I'm gonna make a lot of money off of these videos, so it is what it is. But define the preposition. Counsel, when you say, and I'm speaking directly to him, I don't know if he's going to see this video, but when you say we know what happened, what exactly do you mean? Do you mean that we know Warren, Morgan, and Jax left before Nolan died? That's one preposition. Or do you mean that we know that Nolan was seen alive afterward, and we can substantiate that based on observation? That's another preposition. Do you mean that we know precisely how Nolan Wells died? That's another different preposition, because Warren told us that they don't know what happened to Nolan. So I'm not going to pretend that those statements mean the same thing. So tell us precisely what is known. This is why language matters. And as for, we have a pair of aces and they have 2 to 7 offsuits, man, listen, that's rhetoric. It's almost like, we've seen so many attorney shows, right? They're just these buzzwords. Oh, I'll see you in court. Okay, just rhetoric. It tells me how confident you can be, but it doesn't show those cards that you claim you have. Guess what? They do that in poker all the time. You call people's bluff. It is what it is. You remember, if you've watched Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta used to do it all the time, right? Let's continue.
And obviously, there's been positive that I've seen that have come y'all's direction. I felt like when Warren came out and did the interview the first time, of course, a lot of people decided to say a lot of negative things, but then there's a tremendous amount of people that were very supportive and thankful that they had a chance to hear the other side. So what are y'all's thoughts and feelings on the other side of this, where people have been supportive? Kind of what are your thoughts on that? What have you experienced in that area?
I want to start off and just say that has helped us tremendously through this. One, mentally knowing that there are people on our side that are here to help and want to help and are actually helping with the online stuff. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has made a video on the positive side of things and showing the actual facts and debunking a lot of false information and giving to the Gifts and Go. Yeah, that's another really big one.
Keep in mind now, this Gifts and Go was like $100,000. That was their goal. That was their initial goal, created by Benjamin Hudson. This was their initial goal. And I'm not sure, it says fundraiser funds will be received by Taylor and Cox Law Firm, PA. Now, again, I don't know. Their initial goal was 100,000. Now, why did they change it to 200,000? It'd be interesting what their justification would be, because initially they presumed it was 100,000 was their goal, and then when they eclipsed that, hey, let's just move it up to 200 grand, right? Let's see how far this can go. And it's not wrong to to say that, because that could be an option. It could be an option of, let's see how far we can get this thing up there. Let's see how much money we can make out of this, right? But everybody else is called, you know, a grifter. Very interesting.
Thank you so much for that, giving to the Gifts and Go. That means a lot, more than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, Morgan.
I just want to say thank you to all the people out there. I mean, I personally went through and looked at all the like. There's a prayer thing you can say a prayer on there, and I personally went through and looked at all the prayers, and I'm just really appreciative of all the people that I know that have our backs and have supported us through all of this. It's really helped us out.
That's great.
Oh, you know, obviously I want to give thanks to my friends and my family. Really appreciate it. I mean, it's hard to get by every day without having a group of people behind you. And it really helps my friend and I's, especially like mental side of things, you know, knowing that we have a community behind us that is willing to stand for us and stand for the truth. And, you know, we can't thank them enough. Like, seriously, with, you know, like Morgan said, the prayers and just even the money and the Gifts and Go. It's a blessing from the Lord. And, you know, we can't thank everybody enough. Seriously, it's been.
I do want to say this, because obviously, you know, a few minutes ago, money was invoked as evidence concerning the motives of the other side, right? Because the attorney was literally, it's almost like, you know, it came full circle, and God is just like exposing, allowing them to fall on their own swords, essentially, in this interview. Like, the attorney fell on his sword, and then they turned around and fell on the sword because he was like, everybody else is doing it for money, and then they're talking about Gifts and Go as making, you know, they're making money. Like, you can't accuse someone else of something that you're doing, regardless of the motivation, because you can paint it as being, oh, we're doing it for attorney reasons, we're doing it for this reason, and then demonize other people because you assume that they may that they're making video because they want to accuse you guys of a crime that you believe that you didn't commit. Make that make sense? Saying that racism for profit, outrage for profit. And so this is why money cannot be used as a shortcut to determine whether an argument is true or false. People on every side of a public controversy may have financial interests, but that doesn't excuse the fact that what people are asking is valid questions. And people are not going to just assume that because you're white, therefore you're right. Or just because you give you give testimony, that now we can conclude the whole matter. A financial incentive can be relevant when examining motive, but it cannot tell you the whole motive. Profit does not make a proposition false, and the lack of profit does not make a proposition true. You still have to evaluate the evidence. You got to. Let's continue.
It's been more than enough.
So, Ed, what are your thoughts on this? I know you see the outpouring of support for the boys. I know that obviously with your credentials, you're taking on this case, which is a huge undertaking, representing multiple young people in this.
He speaks so, you know, man, you got the credentials, man. Why isn't he so accusatory of this individual, but he was so accusatory of the Hebrew or so-called Black American audio engineer who said she didn't have any ulterior motives when she cleaned up the audio footage? Why isn't he so, you know, light?
So many people that you have mentioned that could be possibly going to get sued in this. So what would you like to say to the people about this?
Well, the most important thing is that these three outstanding young men who are completely innocent are worth standing behind. It's worth standing behind them. It's worth supporting them, because these three gentlemen here, they're going to go out into the world and they're going to do incredible things for society. Right? These are three young men who want to help people and who are going to help people. They're just wonderful souls, wonderful human beings. So if you want someone to support, if you're looking,
This man he is in Donald Trump's right ear. Prove me wrong. Wonderful souls, virtuous, honest, beautiful people. This guy is Donald Trump's doppelganger. I mean, prove me wrong. These buzzwords, these anecdotal statements are indicative of fragmented thoughts, discombobulated thoughts that can't even continue on in a full structured sentence, let alone a paragraph. Wonderful souls, beautiful people, great things in the future. I mean, these are anecdotal. I mean, gosh, this guy, lazy.
for someone to support, and if you're looking for people who tell the truth and like evidence and common sense, you should support these guys, not the other guys who traffic in lies. All right, now there's a Give, Send, Go page, right? Those donations are very important. We have an incredible legal team. I'm very, very privileged to be working with Tyler Cox, called Cox, right? Right, so, but we're gonna be bringing powerhouse lawsuits, absolutely powerhouse. But, right, it does require support, and any support is greatly appreciated. But there are also things that people can do that have nothing to do with money. All we're asking people to do is embrace reality, embrace common sense, and
Don't you find it weird that, it's almost like anyone who disagrees with us is wrong. Anyone who disagrees with us is wrong. I encountered this when I was a Christian for many years. It was, everyone else is wrong, we are right, until I was able to understand that there is something called doctrine and there is something called the scriptures. Let God be true and every man a liar. Christianity, essentially European Christianity, has developed a doctrine of things about the Bible that are disjointed from what the Bible actually says and teaches. So it's very interesting that he's taking the same position that anyone who disagrees with us lacks common sense, lacks integrity, lacks honesty, is not in reality, is schizophrenic. These, again, who are they? They think that they are God. He thinks that he is God, and he thinks that what he's saying is from God. That's why God doesn't want us to fear people like this, because these people speak so up here, but I've already just dismantled his argument in this video, and I don't make nearly as much money as this guy. Many of you have dismantled this video if you're doing content on this interview. I mean, it's very strange that he speaks so, boisterously. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised, given the culture of America and its pride, right? But pride comes before a fall, right? And that's one of the sins that God hates. God hates pride. So he can have your pride, because it's going to be America's downfall.
don't give in to your worst impulses. Do the research. Read, look at the evidence, right? Start judging credibility, and look at the respective motivations, the motives on both sides, right? On one side, you have some folks who maybe are not motivated by such great things. But what we have on our side, and why you should support us, one word for you. My favorite word, which is virtue. We've got virtue, all right? We've got the honesty, we've got the integrity, right? We're doing the right thing here. Honesty, integrity, that's us. Honesty, integrity, and the truth. And those are very high virtues. And that's why you should support these incredible young men.
Imagine if an investigation ended with, I met them, which he just recently did. He does not know them from a hill of beans. And I say that because, my mom used to pick out individual beans. She was like, nah, this is not a good bean. So anyway, so, he doesn't know them from a hill of beans, but his deduction is I met them and they are wonderful souls. Like, imagine if an investigation ended with that. They compare testimony against objective evidence. That's what they should do, not what this guy's doing.
Well, thank you guys for agreeing to do an interview. I really, the purpose, and I think you guys can agree to this or lament to it, that the purpose is just to get the message out there. I'm not an investigator in this case. I've done this for a living for a very long time. I know when people are lying and when they're not. And I want the world to know the only reason I'm even willing to talk to you guys is because you've shown through evidence that you've shown me and also through your character that you guys are trustworthy and you're at least in good faith telling me your side of the story. And so I just want to say thank you guys for doing the interview and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wow, he has a part 3. Wow. Okay. But again, listen to what Brandon said, because that part right there, right? That is his epistemological standard, which is very low. That tells us what his epistemological standard is underlying the entire video. All of his interviews, essentially, because remember at the very beginning, before he released all this stuff, he was like, I went down to Mississippi, I found the truth, y'all are lying, y'all are going to pay for your lies. But Brendan says that I'm not an investigator. Okay. Then, essentially, I've done this long enough that I know when somebody is lying. That's Brandon's personal belief. And keep in mind, this man he's made some outrageous claims that are absolutely disjointed from anything that logic would agree with. And then he says that, they've shown him evidence we have not necessarily been shown. Where's the timestamp for that video that you posted? Where's the timestamp for the pictures and all the other things that you posted? Why is there conflict in Katie's testimony about Nolan saying that he did not say that he was going with her, that he was going with them? Why is there contradictions in Warren's testimony? Why is there contradictions in Trayson's testimony? You're saying that they have evidence and what they've said to you proves their innocence, but we still don't have that. We have more questions about what you've done for them, but you do not recuse them. And then he supplements that with his assessment of their character. That's enough for Brandon to say that I believe these young men. He's entitled to that conclusion. That's his own personal belief. But that is completely different from everybody else must believe them. And anyone who doesn't is a liar, is stupid, is racist, or is motivated by money. You can believe that they're upstanding individuals. You can believe that they come from a high profile community. You can believe that they're innocent. Guess what? That's your own personal belief. That doesn't mean that it's axiomatic. It doesn't mean that they're not giving you the full truth. It doesn't mean that they're somehow not hiding something from you, or that they are only giving you the evidence of what they have and eliminating other things, or that something nefarious did or didn't happen. Okay? If Brandon has access to evidence that the public does not possess, then Brandon has a different information set than us, because it appears as though he does, because based on what we've heard, no one is believing what they're saying, and they should not. Excuse me, I shouldn't say no one, but many people aren't, because you should be still at a neutral base. Their testimony is just evidence. It's not an exoneration. You cannot rationally demand that two people with different evidences arrive at identical levels of certainty. You just can't. Show us the evidence. This is like going to court and the defense team is like, we didn't do it, and the judge is like, yep, they didn't do it. All right, case closed. That's essentially what this is. You have to argue based on the evidence, and making a testimony, whether it be local law enforcement saying that there was no foul play, that is evidence. That is not a conclusion. Law enforcement, listen, as I mentioned previously, Black Americans, Black people, we are 7 times more likely to be exonerated of a criminal offense than any other ethnicity in America. That should tell you something. Imagine if they put those in their per capita statistics, that would substantially reduce their argument of our people being uncivilized, or whatever the case may be, whatever they argue about, right? But I do want to summarize this because, part 2, right? Calling CETO or the Coast Guard is essentially not consistent with innocence. You can call CETO, you can call Coast Guard and still commit a crime, but it does not logically entail innocence. Looking calm on a boat is demeanor evidence. That's all it is, but it does not establish what happened earlier. Not being arrested proves that you haven't been arrested yet, but it doesn't establish that you should not be arrested, right? CETO and the Coast Guard are separate entities, and their respective contacts should be placed separately on the timeline. But making it seem like, you made an effort to call Coast Guard at a specific time and you didn't want them at this time doesn't recuse you of any wrongdoing. If the enhanced audio is false or misleading, then you need to demonstrate that with methodology. Because so far as we know, the audio engineering from various organizations, especially, first of all, the Black American woman, I can't remember her name right now, but is sufficient, because many other organizations that did it ended up with the same evidence as she. And the Warren says that we don't know what happened to Nolan. Then counsel later said that we know what happened. We know that these beautiful souls didn't do it. Define exactly what counsel claims to know. What does he claim to know? Counsel says that, we don't speculate. Then he assigns critics a motive, right? What was the motive in the case? He knows the motive, but he says that he don't want to speculate. Racism for profit. Apply the evidentiary standard equally then. If you guys are not, if these guys are not race hustling, or they're not making money off of Nolan's death, then get rid of the funds. Make their family pay out of pocket rather than, hustle for this. Like, excuse me. Just make it make sense. Threatening lawsuits does not tell us what happened to Nolan Wells. Calling these young men virtuous does not tell us what happened to Nolan Wells. And telling us that you possess evidence that hasn't been shown to us cannot substantiate for actually presenting that evidence to the general public. The time is appropriate. Do it. Show us what you have. Show us the evidence of like, oh, look, we have the evidence. We'll see you in court. This is ridiculous. You guys can't win. Show us what you're talking about. Because obviously you've seen the evidence. Everybody else has seen the evidence but us. And so this is where I want to really end this. I don't need Warren, Morgan, or Jax to be guilty. I don't. If the evidence ultimately clears these men completely, then that's where the evidence leads. But again, you need to understand something, that human courts are not courts ordained by God. American justice system is not ordained by God. American justice system is full of fallible people who are operating under a code, whether that be in the event that someone is prosecuted or not prosecuted. And I say this because many people have been prosecuted for the same crimes and have been giving different sentences. So to say that there is not a distinction in the measurement in American judicial system is not paying attention to the structure of the judicial system, because God has a standard, and that standard is the same across all levels, but it's not the same in the judicial system here in America, and it just never has been. Okay, but I do want to end this because this has been on for very long. But I will say this: justice for Nolan Wells, and justice for his family. I pray that his mom has some closure, whatever that closure may be. Again, this has been Semitic Jew, and I'm signing off. I hope you guys are well. Scripture, logic, and truth. Shalom.